Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Just out checking some parts of the property. All the snow brought down a few more trees back here that we're trying to clear out. There's some more deadfall. Just kind of getting an idea on the condition of things, because as soon as it starts thawing out to where there's less chance of getting stuck back in here, I'm going to start cutting some of this down. Been talking a lot about kind of the scary stuff, all this stuff happening, and it sounds scary to a lot of people. I've been having people tell me of how scary it is. And it's just too much doom and gloom, you know. Need to talk about something more positive. You're always talking about how the world's gonna end and how everything's getting ready to collapse. And, well, it's because it probably is. And I don't think that a whole lot of people, not saying you, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people out there that just don't fully get it yet. They don't quite understand what it means to say that, well, it's all getting ready to collapse, or we're getting ready to go into World War III, or this or that, and how bad it is, how bad it's going to get. And that's the big thing. I don't think a lot of people fully understand how bad things could possibly be. When you look at everything that's happening, you compare it to, things that's happened in the past around the world. You look at the massive influx of illegals into this country. You look at how our economy is just not doing very well, folks. War, rumors of war, and you pair that all up with how people they're just becoming evil and wicked and selfish. It's kind of like old 2 Timothy chapter 3, becoming lovers of self. Just evil. Saw an article the other day, and my wife read it to me. Let's get through here. There we go. That was the worst part. About how there's a huge uptick in Satanism amongst young people. How people are turning away from biblical beliefs and they're moving towards Satanism because it's so much better. You know, it's just not dogmatic. It's just encourage you to be yourself and to love yourself and to do what pleases you. So much better. The reason why I say all this stuff and why I've kind of picked up the pace on the doomsday, certainly not to scare anyone, because that's never my intent. It's to try to get some people really ready. And I mean really ready. Because the world is taking a downturn. Is this the big one? Is this the one that's talked about in the end times, Bible? I don't know. Sure looks that way. But regardless of that, what we do know is that things are getting bad, and they're going to continue to get bad. And this whole deal with Russia and all this other stuff going on. We're just on a knife's edge right now. And that's why I want people to get really serious about getting themselves ready. Get out there and train, prepare, get used to living the life that you're probably going to have to start living. Get used to being without. Get used to living somewhat primitive, I would say. I mean, you can have all kinds of technical gadgetry and stuff for your preps, but the reality is there may come a day that none of that means anything. and we're going to have to just do without. Get used to the idea of protecting your home and not depending on the government doing it. That's why I've been more adamant about carrying things like this and doing the kind of stuff that you would do with tools like this, because it's getting myself ready. I mean, I've had all kinds of training in the past, I've used them in the past, but I need to get used to using them and having them on a daily basis, where they're just kind of an extra appendage, you know. Even those that have trained and gone off to war and fought, a lot of times there's just still an awkwardness because you don't carry them around all the time. And in the world that we may end up in soon, you may want to have something like this at your ready fairly often. And so it's an example, but that's the kind of stuff that we got to get ready for. Got to get ready for, you know, doing without, doing with little. You know, if you're used to nice 3 square meals a day and a warm hot shower every day and all your plumbing and electricity and everything functioning as it should, you should probably get used to not having that. Years ago, we used to do what we'd call it an Amish day, and we would turn the electricity off to the house and turn all the utilities off, turn the running water off, and we would live through the day without it. And it was a fun little game for the kids, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Getting used to kind of taking care of your own, whether it's an injury or feeding or growing or your animals. We live in a world where no one does for themselves anymore, at least very little do. And, you know, if your dog isn't feeling good, you got to rush it off to the vet. Well, what if you don't have that? And you know, or if your child's got a cough, oh, got to take it to emergency care. What are you going to do when you don't have that? This is the kind of thoughts that should be running through your head. How are you going to keep your food preserved if you don't have electricity and refrigeration? How are you going to feed your family if you don't have the stores, or they don't have electricity, or maybe they have a bunch of food, but it's all full of this abomination chemical in it that alters your DNA, because that's exactly what they're doing also. I talked about that over on Patreon if you're interested in seeing that. I think that was yesterday or the day before. That's happening more and more. I mean, they're already announced in Europe, they're putting bug meal, bug flour in food. It's in everything now. You know, your pizza dough, your birthday cake, it's in all of it. It's okay. It's fine. And so what do you do when you have to make a choice to either give in to that stuff, bow down and worship that beast, or, you know, do on your own? You need to be ready for that, folks. These kind of days are very likely ahead of us. And I think that too few people truly understand how bad those kind of days could be. If you don't understand, I mean, there's Hollywood movies and TV shows that can kind of give you an idea, but you need to do some history and research and see how things have been in other parts of the world where things went bad really fast. Over in Eastern Europe after Russia fell. You know, look down into South America and Africa and places like that when they go through revolution after revolution and collapse after collapse. And see what it was like for those people, the kind of horrid things that they saw on a daily basis. It's very possible you could see that here. I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it's possible. And we would be foolish, even if it's a smaller chance that it would happen. We would be foolish not to ready ourselves for that. Not to start working on plans with our children. And kind of getting them as ready as possible. I mean, sure, you don't want to traumatize them, but they also need to grow up, because they're going to have to. They're going to have to grow up either under your control or just because the world is forcing them. And they need to be ready to work. They need to be ready to defend themselves. They need to be ready to follow orders and directions. And they need to be ready to bounce back after traumatic events, because that's going to be a big thing for us all. the ability to see and hear and do something that in a stable environment is considered kind of bad and horrid, and yet bouncing back from it pretty quickly, because that's what it takes to survive. I don't desire these things. I certainly don't desire these things for other people. But I also see that there's a strong possibility that they're going to happen, at least in some form or fashion. And we need to ready ourselves. And I think that's a big push for me. I know that if I keep quiet and I just produce a lot of nice, comfortable reviews and, you know, this is how you put a potato in the ground and all this kind of stuff, I think I would feel very, very guilty. Don't know if I could live with myself after it's all done, knowing that I had the platform, the opportunity, the stage to try to reach at least one or two more people and wake them up. So that's really the motivation for me, is to just kind of get people awake and ready and prepared. Because it seems almost daily now that there's something that's pushing us further and further down that path. And we don't know exactly how much longer we have to be on that path before it's all destroyed, but we're certainly headed in that direction, and we'd be foolish to not prepare ourselves. Get your houses in order, folks. Take it serious, and think really outside the box. It's not going to be a camping expedition. It's going to be a life or death situation, and that's the kind of mentality that it's going to take to survive it. Just be preparing mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching. Catch you in the next video.